Hello everyone, welcome back to your Eleanor, and this video we are going to explain Love Alert BL episode number 5. Fah was seen taking many photos of Jimmy. Fah asked which photo Jimmy liked. Without taking his eyes off Fah, Jimmy said that he liked the best one. Fah then continued taking photos outdoors. Realizing that Tay was watching them, Fah deliberately gave his attention to Jimmy. All Tay could do was hold back his annoyance. At Jimmy's condominium, To had just arrived and took Sensi out of the pet carrier. Remembering what Jimmy had said, that Sensi had to stay with his mom for the day, To kept smiling. Back to Fah. He thanked Jimmy. The members of the association had chosen Jimmy, so Fah came to talk to him. To Jimmy, Fah didn't need to say thank you. He could come to him anytime. Jimmy held Fah's hand and said that he wanted to get to know Fah better, and asked whether Fah could give him a chance. Fah explained that he never closed opportunities to anyone, no matter who they were. But he wouldn't let anyone in, especially if he himself wasn't ready. It turned out that their conversation was overheard by Tay. Before leaving, Fah said that he would treat Jimmy another time. Jimmy asked if it couldn't be today. Fah apologized because he already had plans. Tay laughed at Fah's gentle rejection of Jimmy. As he walked alone, Tay muttered that even without him, Jimmy would never have a chance to be with Fah. Suddenly, Fah appeared. He wanted to talk to Tay privately. Tay looked around. Fah said that Tay didn't need to worry, because no one would see them there. Tay asked what Fah wanted to talk about. Suddenly, Fah hit Tay. He said he could have hit him harder if he hadn't known the truth. Tay asked, the truth about what? Fah said it was about the reason Tay was avoiding him, ignoring his calls, only leaving messages without replying. It was because of Jimmy. Because Tay kept silent. Fah said he would give Tay one last chance. Fah wanted to know what was going on between Tay and Jimmy, and what it had to do with Fah. Tay answered that it was nothing. Disappointed, and with that last chance given, it meant that the two of them didn't have to talk to each other anymore. When Fah was about to leave, Tay chased after him and hugged Fah tightly. Fah turned around and hugged Tay back. Jimmy, who had taken To home, thanked To for taking care of Sensi. He didn't forget to kiss To on the cheek. To, realizing that he was now at home, looked around, afraid that Tay might be there. Jimmy said that To didn't need to worry, because Tay wasn't home. For To, he just didn't want there to be problems between the two of them. Jimmy teased To, saying that he thought To wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. Jimmy also didn't forget to say goodnight to To, and To reminded Jimmy to send a message once he had arrived home. As he was about to leave, Jimmy turned back and kissed To again. This time, he really went home. At Fah's house, Fah said that he already knew the truth. Flashback to when Fah was looking for Jimmy outside the classroom. He overheard the conversation between Tay and Jimmy. After knowing the truth, did Tay still want to be his lover? Tay explained that when he was with Fah, he was always very happy. Tay couldn't even stop smiling. It was Fah who taught him how to love someone. While holding Fah's hand, Tay added that only Fah made him feel that way, because he knew that Tay was worried about To. They could keep their relationship a secret from Jimmy. When Fah wanted to see Tay, he would go to Tay's place. And the same would apply to Tay. Meanwhile, on campus, they would act normal, like two celebrities in a secret relationship. Tae asked whether that wouldn't be thrilling. Fa kissed Tae. Tae returned the kiss. Meanwhile, To received a message from Jimmy. He said that Jimmy was already home and getting ready to sleep. To started smiling when he saw the message. But remembering what Jimmy and Tae had said, he became gloomy again. But in reality, Jimmy was at a bar, having fun with his friends. Someone approached Jimmy, seemingly asking for his contact. On the other side, two people were taking photos of Jimmy's closeness with them. The next day, To asked Tae to taste several kinds of coffee that he had made. There were Americano, espresso, latte, cappuccino, and mocha. Tae began tasting them. And afterward, he wrote down his ratings. Seeing his younger brother being so serious, To said that he had only asked him to taste the coffee, not take an exam. But for Tae, he had to be thorough. Because if he wasn't, how could he know which one was better? After Tae tasted all of them, he felt that the flavors were already quite good, feeling that it was excessive. For Tae, he was being sincere. Not because To was his brother, but because the coffee truly tasted good. The doorbell rang. Tae went to check it. During that time, To looked at the ratings his brother had given. It turned out that Fa was the one who came. Tae asked whether Fa had come because he missed him. Fa said that Tae misunderstood. He came because he wanted to meet To. Fa immediately hurried to see To. Fa then asked whether To liked Jimmy. To said that it was impossible. It must have been Tae who said that to Fa. Tae was always protective and obsessed with him. For Fa, it was fine if To didn't want to tell the truth. But To had to know about the photos Fa had. Fa said that his friend had gone to a bar last night and taken photos of Jimmy. They knew that Jimmy was pursuing Fa. To was shocked but tried to stay strong as he asked why Fa was showing him those photos. Fa explained that he and Tae were worried about To. And they could also see that Jimmy kept flirting with To. Maybe To would fall for him. Fa reminded him that Jimmy was a playboy. Fa didn't want to see To get hurt. Holding back his sadness, To deeply appreciated Fa. To assured Fa that there was no relationship at all between him and Jimmy. At campus, Tae was surprised because Fa spoke directly to To. For Fa, there was no reason to hide it. But Fa and Tae were just outsiders. All they could do was warn To. The final decision was still up to To. Fa also couldn't stand seeing Jimmy constantly messing with people's feelings. Using someone's secret for his own benefit was something Fa couldn't accept. Tae asked, then what about To? Fa said that To was only trying to be strong. But in reality, he was hurt. Fa was sure that Jimmy would still pursue To behind Tae's back. Tae got angry and wanted to confront Jimmy. But Fa stopped him. He knew Tae was angry. But hitting him wouldn't solve anything. There were better ways than violence. Tae obeyed Fa. At home, To remembered Jimmy's message from last night. He also remembered what Fa had said. Jimmy came over, bringing food. Jimmy invited To have lunch together. To didn't realize that it was already noon. He had been too absorbed in his work. As usual, Jimmy was attentive to To. Jimmy even made an excuse that there was something on To's cheek and kissed him. To, who intended to ask something, stopped himself. Instead, he thanked Jimmy and invited him to eat together. Back to Tae and Fa. Fa had just found out that Tae was indeed To's brother. But he didn't know what To was really like. To was always like this. Fully committed when it came to love. If To didn't listen to their warning, they would have to let To get hurt until he felt it was enough. Tae agreed. The goal wasn't to make Jimmy leave him, but to make To walk away on his own. Fa wanted Tae to be sure that this wouldn't only save To, but would also teach Jimmy a lesson. A player like Jimmy might lose his heart to a good man like To. While Jimmy and To were having lunch, Jimmy told To that exams were coming soon, so he had to study seriously. Jimmy also thought about turning off his phone. To, remembering the photos of Jimmy at the bar, drifted off in thought again. To said it was good that Jimmy told him, so he wouldn't disturb Jimmy's studying. To understood, because he didn't mind. Jimmy was happy, then hugged and kissed To. He said that To was the best. After a farewell kiss, Jimmy left. To went outside the house and looked at the pots and plants that Jimmy had given him. Seeing his brother not even eating, Tae felt worried. He asked whether To was okay, and what he was thinking about. To made an excuse that he was just thinking about inventory for the cafe. Tae said that his exams would be over soon, and asked where they should go for a trip. To replied that Tae could go without him, because he would be busy with the cafe opening. To wanted to open the cafe on an auspicious date. To asked why Tae didn't ask Jimmy. Tae explained that the queue would be long if he had to ask Jimmy, because many people wanted to go with Jimmy. Tae decided not to go anywhere. It would be better for him to help his brother open the cafe. That night, in To's room, he tried to call Jimmy, because the call didn't go through. To asked himself, what if Jimmy was lying to him? To thought hard. Then he went to Jimmy's condominium, because he had the key. To entered the place. Seeing To in his home, Jimmy asked why To didn't tell him that he was coming. Was To coming to spy on him? Did To think Jimmy would sneak off somewhere? To answered that it wasn't like that. He just couldn't contact Jimmy. Jimmy reminded him that he had already said he would turn off his phone to study. And now Jimmy saw To in his house. How would To feel if he were in Jimmy's position? Seeing Jimmy angry, To apologized. But for Jimmy, the apology came too late. He told To to leave, not to contact him, and not to come to his place for a while. Unless To really wanted to see Jimmy get even angrier. Jimmy closed the door and went inside. Seeing Jimmy's reaction, To was sad. To walked home while crying. The next day, To was watering the plants, but he wasn't focused. Tae, who was getting ready to go to campus, saw To. He said that To would drown the plants before they even grew. To, who had been daydreaming, came back to his senses because of Tae. Tae asked whether the two of them had broken up again, and told him not to say that he missed Jimmy. To immediately answered no. Why would he miss Jimmy anyway? He was only thinking about the staff interview tomorrow. Tae tried to believe him. He said goodbye because he had an exam. Before leaving, he hugged his brother, even though he felt sad seeing his brother's condition. Tae tried to stay strong. At campus, Jimmy and his two friends had just finished their exams. One of Jimmy's friends asked where the party would be held that night. Jimmy said he wasn't in the mood. His friend asked whether Jimmy had argued with someone, because Jimmy had looked irritable since that morning. Jimmy answered yes, because Tae kept tracking him like a detective. Jimmy's friend really wanted to see the person who made Jimmy uncomfortable. And who would end up apologizing. Jimmy explained that he wouldn't go back to anyone, even if he was the one at fault. Jimmy chose to leave his two friends behind. Outside Jimmy's condominium, To was sitting there waiting for him. When Jimmy saw To, he immediately went inside. To chased after Jimmy and apologized while hugging him. He shouldn't have suspected Jimmy. And he would never do it again. To promised. Hearing To's plea, Jimmy smiled. Jimmy reminded To not to ever do that again. To nodded and kissed Jimmy. After that, they spent time at the swimming pool. Jimmy and To played in the water. To was surprised when Jimmy was suddenly right in front of him. The two of them kissed again. When things were about to go further, suddenly Jimmy told To to go home. Because he couldn't concentrate if To was there. Jimmy had to focus on studying. To forgot about Jimmy's exam. Before To left, Jimmy asked him to help feed Sensei. That night, To came home and saw Tae eating instant noodles. He apologized for not having time to cook. To was busy taking care of several businesses. When To was about to cook, Tae stopped him, saying he had already eaten. Tae asked what kind of business To meant, because it seemed as if To's soul had been sucked out of his body. To asked whether he really looked that bad. Tae answered yes, like someone who had just come back from war. Not wanting Tae to become more suspicious, To excused himself to take a shower. Seeing what was happening to his brother made Tae very sad. At campus, Tae ran into Jimmy. Tae asked whether Jimmy was still holding tightly onto his brother. Jimmy said that Tae should ask To himself. Tae said that Jimmy had fallen for To but hadn't realized it yet. To Jimmy, Tae was talking nonsense. Because for him, that was impossible. Tae reminded him that it was fine if Jimmy didn't want to admit it. But Jimmy needed to know that patience has its limits. On the day when To finally realizes and gets tired, Jimmy himself will be searching for something worse than a stray cat. And Tae will be there, enjoying every single second of it. Jimmy only gave a cynical smile at what Tae said. That's all for this part. See you in the next episode 6. Thank you for watching and then have a nice day.